Welcome back to another episode of the Pandemic Job Hunt. This podcast aims to break down key techniques and to uncover the industry secrets to help you stand out in getting a job during this once-in-a-lifetime pandemic we are living in. And I am your host, Andrew Barry. In this episode, I sit down with Dean Kulaweera. He's a job searching coach based out of Toronto, Canada, with a background in recruiting for an agency. We covered a lot of topics, from optimizing your resume, building your personal brand, and how to best connect with a recruiter. Dean had a lot of practical and easily implementable advice for the job seeker, so please tune in. Hi, Dean. How are you?
Hey, how's it going, Andrew? I'm doing great. Thanks so much. How about yourself? How's everything?
I'm good. I'm very stoked. Van Vliet just signed the $85 million contract with the Toronto Raptors over the weekend, and I'm so happy he was retained. I'm probably his biggest fan, and it's probably my favorite player. It's sad to see Ibaka go, but it's good to see that part of the core team is still there. But yeah, enough. Are you a Raptors fan by any chance?
No, you know what? I haven't had the chance to really keep up on my sports, so I can't say I'm up to date on what's going on.
So what have you been up to lately, Dean?
Well, I mean, if we're talking not work related, I mean, just this weekend, I finally switched over to my winter tires. So I was a last minute
Okay.
kind of a guy with that. Just not much of a winter person myself. I'm more of a summer
Mm-hmm.
kind of a guy. So just kind of getting used to the fact that we're in the snow season right now.
Mm-hmm. We're definitely in the snow. I think over the weekend it was like intense snow on
Yeah, there
Sunday,
was. Yeah, it was all day.
and it was very beautiful to see. I played Christmas music in my house.
Nice.
I really enjoyed it. So tell me a little bit about your IT career coach business you have, and how has that transitioned into the pandemic world from pre-pandemic?
Yeah, sure thing. So my background is just to give you some background. So I come from an IT recruitment background. So I probably have around 8+ years of experience working in recruitment specifically for the IT space. So
Mm-hmm.
within IT, I've recruited for primarily in the staffing agency side of things. So
Mm-hmm.
what that means is I was able to recruit on a multitude of different tech related positions in various types of organizations, ranging from startups all the way to large size,
Mm-hmm.
huge companies as well. And all those years of experience, when you're interviewing and dealing with so many recruitment cycles over the years, you get to see a lot of patterns, a lot of things that people do
Mm-hmm.
really well and really great. Certain areas that obviously people could use some improvement on in terms of their job search and their interviewing skills and all that stuff. So during the pandemic, of course, especially right now, there's a huge demand for people in need of that assistance in handling their job search and conducting their interview cycles and how they're job searching in a more effective manner. So that's why I felt and I started my coaching business pretty much at the onset of this pandemic because I did see a real need for again this knowledge and these strategies to be put into play for many people. So utilizing all those years of experience working in recruitment, that's what I bring to the table through my business and through coaching people through their job search.
So, do you think there is a new normal in applying for jobs and interviewing for jobs in the pandemic world versus the pre-pandemic world?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's such a great question, right? And it's such a key question. And so, a few points come to mind, right? So number one, in terms of the new normal, is definitely there's way more people applying online
Hmm.
than there were pre-COVID, right? Now, just to
Yeah.
share some brief stats with everyone, pre-COVID, on average, it's stated that there's roughly around 250 applications for every job posting an organization or agency posted. So basically, on average,
Hmm.
250 applications.
Is
Now
that in
that's pre,
Canada or the US?
just in general, like in North
Okay.
America,
Okay.
right? So that's the average before pre-COVID. Now I
Hmm.
haven't seen any stats in relation to what's going on right now, but it's way more right now. Like I just
Yeah.
earlier today I saw someone in my network actually posted some screenshots of some of the jobs that they're applying for, where there's like 2,000, 3,000 other
Yeah.
applications,
I've
right?
noticed on LinkedIn every time a job posting is up, within a day or 2 days, it hits above 500 applicants, and you don't
Yeah,
even know how many actual applicants applied through LinkedIn.
yeah.
It's a lot. The competition is stiffer, and you really have to think outside the box when it comes to applying for jobs. So how how would a candidate try to stand out amongst other applicants? Let's focus this question in the tech space.
Yeah, yeah, sure. So Andrew, if I can just quickly finish, the other aspects that I observed regarding the new normal, because I want to make sure your viewers get an understanding of that. So obviously, as you mentioned, there's a lot of higher levels of competition, and the other
Mhm,
aspect is video interviews, right? Video interviews are definitely the new normal, especially now in any recruitment cycle that you as a candidate are going to be involved in. The handshake is pretty much on hold right now. No more
mhm,
handshakes. No more meeting people in person.
mhm,
Video interviews is basically the platform being used where you gotta, as a candidate, sell yourself over the video. So that's another aspect of the new normal, right? And
mhm,
the other aspect is that now, because there's such an abundance of talent on the market,
mhm,
companies are in a position where they get to be more picky, right? Whereas a year ago, if we had this
mhm.
conversation, it was a situation where candidates might have multiple offers on the table, and it was the candidates who were more pickier, right? They,
Yeah,
they were in a position where they
yeah.
were considering multiple opportunities. But now it's like those tables have kind of turned, and companies
Yeah.
are more discerning regarding who they want to move ahead with or not, and
Mhm,
they're in a position where they can be more pickier. So it's the new normal from that standpoint is, hey, you gotta sharpen up your interviewing skills
mhm,
and your ability to really communicate your value as a candidate.
mhm,
Now, moving on to I know you were asking about how can tech candidates really stand out.
mhm,
Well, a couple of things in regards to standing out. Right, number one is it's extremely important right now, especially with these high levels of competition, to really take the effort in customizing your resume for the positions you're applying for. Now, as someone myself coming from a recruitment background, what this means is, keep in mind that recruiters, who will be 90% of the time the first group of
mhm,
people to look at your resume, they're very keyword driven, right? So you got to make sure that you have the right keywords associated with your field or with your skill set or with
mhm,
your domain of expertise, really laid out on your resume, and you got to make sure that your resume is customized for the positions that you're applying for.
mhm,
Now, the second thing is optimizing your LinkedIn profile. This is another way you can really make yourself stand out. If you have a compelling profile, it's optimized for being found on LinkedIn. You got your search engine optimization stuff in check on your LinkedIn profile. And again, making sure that your LinkedIn profile is keyword rich, because again, recruiters
mhm,
are primarily searching for you based on keywords and certain skill sets that they're looking for.
mhm.
Right now,
So
the third avenue that your viewers should also make note of is, while it's important to apply online efficiently and effectively,
mhm,
you also don't want to depend solely on applying online and solely depending on your resume and those online applications.
mhm,
So what you need to be doing is really thinking about, hey, what other channels can I be using to get
mhm,
myself in front of recruiters, in front of hiring managers, in front of decision makers,
mhm,
and people that are looking for someone such as yourself, during these times. And then the final thing in terms of standing out is building a strong brand, right? What are you doing to build your brand online on LinkedIn? How are you establishing yourself and positioning yourself as a thought leader in your space? Because that ultimately, especially if you're using LinkedIn, that's how you're going to most effectively use LinkedIn. If you're able to position yourself as someone that's
mhm.
really standing out there, really positioning themselves as an expert.
So you mentioned four key factors here. One is you really want to build your resume that is geared towards the job application that you want to
Yeah,
target. You want to optimize your LinkedIn. You also want to think outside of the box versus the traditional just apply it to every single job you see on LinkedIn or Glassdoor or Indeed or whatever. And finally, you mentioned building your brand. However, let's dissect each one a little bit here.
sure,
Uh, let's talk about the resume aspect. I know different countries have different standards. Let's talk specifically in, say, Toronto and Canada. How should someone structure their resume for someone who doesn't have that much work experience? Say you are a recent grad, you graduate into a time where unemployment is quite high. The job market hasn't fully recovered to pre-pandemic levels. What can you do to help you stand out, especially with so many jobs where they ask you for 2 to 3 year experience and they're all entry level jobs? What could you do as a recent grad trying to like hone your resume here?
Yeah, so great question, right? And I hear this from a lot of new graduates myself. So look, if you're a new graduate, and this is, one of the I think greatest hurdles faced by new graduates is
Mhm,
this mental belief that they don't have professional work experience. And yeah, maybe it's true you don't have professional work experience, but guess what? You folks have been
mhm,
taking courses in college. You've been doing academic projects that
mhm,
you can use as leverage, right? Because for the most part, whether we're talking colleges or universities, you have been involved in projects where you were working individually or maybe as a team,
mhm,
whereby you were actually doing what people typically in your field would be doing.
mhm,
So don't ignore those projects, right? List those on your resumes because these are things that you can use to showcase your knowledge, your
mhm,
ability, your hands-on ability, and your ability to apply what you have been learning.
mhm.
So utilize that and use that as leverage, and don't ignore that on your resume, right? This is a mistake a lot of people make. And I hear this from new grads all the time. Hey, Dean, I don't have any experience. Well, what about your academic projects, right? Have you done any academic projects? And especially in the tech space, there's so many projects that people studying tech, whatever field within IT, complete in their program. So you got to use those, you got to utilize those, and highlight those on your resume if you do not have that
Mhm.
professional experience. Now, the other thing I
So,
wanted to mention,
so
Andrew.
what? Mhm. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, and the other aspect of that is you also can create your own portfolio of
Mhm,
examples of your work, right? Because you want to show your academic stuff, but then you can also start creating your own portfolio, building out your own portfolio, where you can say, "Hey, this is what I'm doing. This is," yeah, and it demonstrates your initiative and your commitment to your field as well. So, start creating your own portfolio, which you can also show as experience.
I agree. That portfolio aspect is so important in tech, especially if it's like a UX design. You gotta show your
Oh yeah,
creativity skills and your diverse approach to different problems. In data science, if you are a recent grad and you don't have much data science experience, building a data science portfolio is very important. It's also true for web dev. Actually, many tech skills where developing a portfolio is very easy.
yeah.
And speaking back to the resume, I read or heard of a statistic where recruiters only look through the resume within the first 5-10 seconds before they go to the other, especially now where recruiters are bombarded with tons and tons of resumes. What should be the very first thing on the very top of the resume that someone should do?
Yeah, so this is a great point because I like to think of page one of your resume is like prime time real estate. So you got to
Hmm.
make sure that page one really stands out, right? So page one, first and foremost, you got to have your name right at the top. You got to have a professional email address, right? Not
Hmm.
skaterboy22 at
Oh,
gmail.com
damn.
or something like that. Preferably your first name, your last name, something like that. You got to have your phone number.
Hmm.
You do not need to put your full address, but put your city if at all possible.
Hmm.
And you wanna basically talk about what you bring to the table, right? So instead of talking about, yeah, I mean, it's definitely important to mention what you have and your skill
Hmm.
set, your experience, all that, but you got to talk about what kind of ROI you can bring to the table for organizations or
What
for
do you
for
mean by that? Can you give me an example?
yeah, like what kind of problems you can solve, right? So maybe you can put in new graduate, with a specialization in software development, able
Hmm.
to perform or accomplish XYZ types of solutions for whatever applications.
Is this like a blurb that you put at the very top of
Yeah,
your
so that,
resume?
that- yeah, so that's where so I'm talking about the professional summary area, right?
Yeah, yeah, professional summary. Yeah.
Yeah. So you want to talk about what you can do for organizations and what you can
Hmm.
accomplish for them, right? Now, beneath that, there should always be a section detailing your specific skills,
Hmm.
right? Especially if you're in tech, you want to talk about your technical skills, right? So,
Hmm.
so these are the programming languages you're aware of,
Hmm.
software you've used, types of industries you probably worked on, and all that stuff. Because now the reason why this section is important is because again, recruiters are highly keyword driven.
Hmm.
You're going to be looking for keywords, right? No recruiter is going to be looking for soft skills and all that stuff. I mean, if you want to write down, you're enthusiastic and all that stuff, that's great. But they will primarily be looking for hard skills and actual technical
How
skills.
how did it look for keywords? Is this like a Command F, Control F? say SQL,
Yeah, yeah.
or they
So,
just
so
eyeball it, you know?
yeah, yeah. So on the resume itself, like if it's on their if they open the file on their computer or
Mhm.
whatnot, yeah, it's going to be Control F, and they're going to look for
Mhm.
those key skill sets on your resume, right?
So you mentioned professional summary. How important is that? Because I've heard about the professional summary. I used to put it on, and I've taken it off my resume. Could you expand a little bit more on the importance of it? Because I've had a mixed reaction to this professional summary.
Right, right. Yeah. I would advise definitely, I mean, the professional summary is a good area to have on your resume
Hmm.
because that's where you pretty much put in your value proposition. Like what you
Hmm.
bring to the table, what you can deliver on, what kind of
Hmm.
solutions you can potentially provide. And so this is the part you can use to really capture that initial attention, right?
Hmm.
So I would say, yeah, definitely that part of the resume is definitely important. I mean, it's you might as well have it on in any case. Like I've never heard anyone say, "Oh, you know what? I'm gonna pass over this resume because they had a professional summary."
Hmm.
But there probably might be people there that might pass over the resume simply because they
Hmm.
didn't really see anything that stood out that was
Hmm.
personalized to the individual, right?
So let's move on from this resume and talk about LinkedIn and building your own personal brand.
Yeah, sure.
Are there any tools that a job applicant should use to help brush up their LinkedIn bio or building their brand? And what do you mean by building their brand?
Yeah, sure. So do you want me to talk about the bio part or the brand part first?
Let's talk about LinkedIn and the bio and whatever tools, then we can move on to the brand.
Okay, sure. All right. So in terms of the LinkedIn, the LinkedIn profile summary, I mean, it's pretty much very similar to your resume, right? Now, the thing with LinkedIn is you can't. Whereas on your resume, you can customize your resume for specific positions you're applying for and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Your LinkedIn profile is pretty much one profile that you can use in order to aim
Mm-hmm.
for those positions or attract the attention of recruiters looking for someone with your skill set. So before even getting to the LinkedIn profile, number one important thing that you need to do as a job seeker is decide what you're aiming for, right? You got to know what your target
Mm-hmm.
is because with your LinkedIn profile, as I mentioned, you only get one profile. You can't customize it for different types of positions.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how you got to. The first thing is know what your target is. What kind of positions are you aiming for? What kind of roles you're aiming for? Now, a mistake a lot of people do is they kind of spread themselves too thin and position themselves as business analyst slash software developer slash database developer
Mm-hmm.
slash everything else. You don't want to do that because that communicates that you might seem a little uncertain about which direction you want to go and even convey like maybe some a certain degree of lacking in direction in terms of where you want to take your career. So
Mm-hmm.
hone in on what you want. Then the second thing is based on that, that's how you got to pitch yourself on your LinkedIn profile, right? So in your professional summary area, the about section on your LinkedIn profile, that is pretty much very similar to the professional summary area of your resume.
Mm-hmm.
So this is where you got to put in your value proposition. This is the section to really capture attention. You want to mention, if you worked at some impressive companies, this is the part you might want to even name drop if you're allowed to do so. And again, mention
Mm-hmm.
those technical skills that apply to you and your skill set. Again, even on LinkedIn, recruiters are heavily keyword driven. They're going to be searching for you using certain
Mm-hmm.
terms related to your skill set. So you got to make sure that
Mm-hmm.
that's mentioned in that section, right? And same thing goes for your
Mm-hmm.
positions and all that. You got to make sure that it describes what you did, describes your accomplishments, what you achieved, and also make sure it's keyword rich as well. So again, it increases your chances of getting into the search results.
All right. So when it comes to your LinkedIn, you say we have to be extremely focused in terms of like the jobs you are applying for. So if I'm a data scientist, I would say data scientist is my headline and seeking position, or data scientist, thought leader in the AI industry. Then just have a bio that says your accomplishments in, say, the AI data science
Yeah,
space and whatnot. But how would you build your brand from there? So you have your LinkedIn bio. What do you mean by building your brand? How could you
yeah,
build
great,
your
great.
brand? Is that by creating content? Is that by engaging with online communities? How would you go
Yeah, so
about it?
great question, right? So definitely, but the first component is definitely you want to, and a lot of people might not be comfortable with creating their own content first and foremost, but you're
Mhm.
sitting in one of the most popular platforms, folks, with so many amazing people you can connect with, who are potentially decision makers or influencers, at their companies that might be able to connect you with the hiring team and all that stuff. So first and foremost, are you engaging with your network's content, right? Because people post stuff all the time. Are you engaging
Mm-hmm.
with it? Are you sharing your own thoughts? Are you liking their stuff? Are you commenting on their stuff? Are you using it as an opportunity for you to display your own knowledge as well, right? So that's
Mm-hmm.
one of the avenues you got to be making use of as you're building your brand. If you want to get warmed up right into this whole content creation thing. Now, the second part, of course, is you gotta start creating your own content as well. All of you tuning in are experts in your own space, right? Whatever that is within tech, right? Maybe you're a data analyst, maybe you're in data science, maybe you're a developer, maybe you're a business analyst, whatever it is. You can very easily talk about things and challenges and accomplishments that you've done,
Mm-hmm.
problems you've overcome, and post about that on LinkedIn. Assuming you don't violate any
Mm-hmm.
non-disclosure agreements and all that, you don't want to do that.
Yeah.
But by doing that, you're attracting the attention of your peers in your industry, because if you're talking about stuff that they also undergo in their respective fields, challenges that they
Mm-hmm.
face, chances are people are going to start engaging with your stuff. They're going to start commenting. You get to share your own thoughts and ideas with them, and ultimately you
Mm-hmm.
grow such a following that you're well known. You're seen as a thought leader, as someone that knows their stuff, someone that stands out in their space. So that's how you kind of start building out your brand and in terms of putting out content, right?
I always enjoyed uh, folks when they were posting on LinkedIn, trying to create unique, engaging content that's not like a hidden humble brag or a hidden self brag. I'm not a big
Yeah,
fan when people post, "Hey, I just completed this course on
yeah,
Udemy. Great." I would like it when people say, I completed this course. These are the top three things I learned and why you should take this course. Adding a little bit more oomph to your message, I think, adds a lot more engagement and showcases your authenticity a little bit more. And I think authenticity is a very hard thing to achieve, especially since we're all on the digital
yeah.
space. You're just typing on your screen and you're posting and seeing how someone reacts to it. I think it's very important to try to showcase some authenticity. But it's also important to also not just always post about the most wonderful aspect of your or such a positive post all the time. It's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to show your disappointment, and it's okay to showcase all the different aspects of your professional journey. And I think there's one person I saw on LinkedIn, a previous guest. She mentioned she lost her job at the beginning of the pandemic, and she was applying to hundreds and hundreds of jobs online and got rejected. And she shared that
Mhm.
pain on LinkedIn, and it got so much engagement, and that allowed her to also connect with more people. And from that post, I was able to connect with her, and she was on my episode, and we just talked about her journey. And I think it's also great to showcase your vulnerability, but not just LinkedIn. There's one other platform I've started noticing and started using a lot more is Twitter. I find Twitter to be a great resource to connect with people, to gain ideas, and also just to be inspired, especially for someone who's looking to get a job in technology. All the thought leaders are on Twitter. VC Tech Twitter is huge, and that's a good place to kind of be aware of some of the exciting technology, some of the exciting companies going about, and a good way to connect with someone who is in that specific company. What are your thoughts on Twitter, and are recruiters on
Yeah,
Twitter?
so I was actually about to say, like, Twitter is one of those platforms that I post on, but I haven't really figured out myself. So I might have to pick your brain about Twitter. I mean, Twitter
Hmm.
is a platform that yeah, I mean, I think recruiters do use it here and there. There are some recruiters that use it very successfully. I personally have not had much success myself on Twitter, so I can't really speak about Twitter.
Hmm.
What I can speak about is LinkedIn. However, LinkedIn is a primary platform that I've used, that has got me a lot of ability to connect with a lot of talent. But yeah, Twitter. I think
Hmm.
you're probably the guy to talk about Twitter. I can't really say I've seen much success myself on Twitter.
Well, just from my recent use of Twitter in the past year or so, I've finally created, at least they finally figured me out, the Twitter
Okay.
algorithm, what I like to consume. I follow a lot of tech Twitter guys. I follow thought leaders. I follow people in the industry from not just like the executive management, but also middle managers and whatnot. And just to see what they're tweeting about. And usually I feel there's a lot more authenticity in the Twitter tweets, as well as it's a good information pipeline to understand what's going on in tech and to like gain new knowledge, as well as to find and identify key people in the different tech space. And I think it's true for the Silicon Valley tech community, as well as the Toronto tech community. There's a lot of folks on there on Twitter discussing what they're working on, discussing discussing the new opportunities. And I had someone tell me that Twitter is a resume for your thoughts. So
Interesting.
it's
I
it's
like
a
that.
place where you can be a lot more authentic than LinkedIn, and you're able to kind of like tweet your thoughts in a professional manner, of course. So if you are a data scientist, start tweeting about some of the latest data science technologies, some of your thoughts on certain technologies, and have some hashtags. And there's people who are active there to will pick you up, and you can have a conversation on Twitter. But LinkedIn is also equally powerful. The algorithm on LinkedIn is very, very powerful. When someone likes it, that content goes across their whole network, and just, there's a lot of knock-on effects on LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn is a good platform and probably easier platform to go viral than some of the other platforms out there. So, speaking of looking outside of your own network, uh, what are some job hunting strategies that you should do more than just straight up applying on the job board? Is it, say, reach out to the recruiter or reach out to someone in the company to get a referral? What are some alternative strategies that you find as very successful?
Yeah, I'm kind of biased to this method, but obviously, coming from staffing agency background, so you definitely want to be connecting with staffing
Mhm,
agencies, right? Now, that doesn't mean every IT recruiter out there is in a position to help you,
mhm,
because not all IT recruiters might be recruiting frequently on your skill set. So, what you folks have to do
mhm,
is, for those of you listening in, is you gotta do your research on first and foremost, focus your those relationships you want to build with IT recruiters. Now, within IT.
IT recruiters, like specifically agencies or also
Yeah,
in
so
the
so as I was
company?
saying, I'm focusing on staffing agencies because I'm from the staffing
Okay.
agency side of things. So you want to focus in on IT recruiters. Now within IT recruiters, of course, not all IT recruiters might be recruiting on your skill set. So this is where you got to do some research.
Hmm.
Identify agencies that you can potentially work with. Uh, single out a couple of recruiters you can actually research on LinkedIn, and you want to look at the typical
Hmm.
posts that they usually make in terms of what positions they recruit on, because everyone knows recruiters are always posting about positions that they're recruiting on actively. So you want to take a look at what
Hmm.
whether the recruiter you're researching has a history of recruiting for your skill set, and that'll allow you to give an
Hmm.
idea of, hey, you know what, there's probably a high chance that this individual is going to be recruiting for my skill set right now, or if not in the near future.
Hmm.
So that's going to allow you to make better use of your time when you're trying to build those relationships, message recruiters, follow up with them, and it'll help you decide, hey, which
Hmm.
one should I be following up with, which one should I be actually reaching out to, and which ones would it not make sense for me to kind of go after and build those relationships. So that's definitely something you want to do. Now the other avenue is, highly recommend you participate in virtual events related to your space, right?
Hmm.
So meetup.com is one of the most popular websites for the going ons in the tech industry. So you want to join groups that allow you to potentially meet actual hiring managers, right? Actual decision makers or
Hmm.
peers at the organizations you might be interested in, or that you'd want to work in, right? So this is another avenue you got to use to build those relationships and be seen in your industry and build that trust, right? You don't want to go right into saying, hey, I'm on the market, can you help me out, blah blah blah. That's not the way you want to build those your relationships, at least at those meetups. Connect on something you have in common, right? If you're in data analytics, you might want to focus the discussion on that eventually, and build that trust, build that connection, and then of course you go into talking about career opportunities and all that stuff.
Speaking of like connecting with recruiters, what is the best way to approach a recruiter? And I've never approached a recruiter before. How would I go about it? Versus, because I know approaching someone who is a hiring manager or a VP in a small startup in their specific department have different approaches and there's different techniques. Recruiters, when they get a lot inbound message from tons and tons of people, how could you get across them and how do you stand out amongst the other folks trying to get the recruiters'
Yeah.
attention?
So keep in mind, recruiting is it's a highly specialized role. It's a highly
Hmm.
specialized skill set. The only thing recruiters do all day long is find people, talk to people, and through email, through LinkedIn messaging, through phone calls. That's all recruiters do all day long. So when you're approaching recruiters, that's why you might find a lot of you who are approaching with hey, how's it going, or how's your day, or and small talk stuff. You'll find that recruiters
Mm-hmm.
might not respond to you because, again, it's a very highly specialized skill set. All they're doing is finding people for the companies they're recruiting on. So with recruiters, you got to take a more
Mm-hmm.
direct approach. You got to identify first and foremost, is this recruiter looking for someone such as myself? And you want to go right into your pitch and talk about who you are,
Mm-hmm.
what your skill set is, what kind of projects you worked on, because you want to capture their attention by positioning yourself as someone that they might want to be interested in having a conversation with, that they can present to their clients, or if it's a corporate recruiter, to their organization. So it's a highly specialized skill set.
Mm-hmm.
So because of that, you got to get straight to the point as soon as possible and capture their attention by
Mm-hmm.
positioning yourself as potential talent that they might want to present.
Hmm. So I've talked to. I think a lot of people are sometimes a little bit afraid of approaching the recruiter, especially those who might not have a lot of professional experience and whatnot. And some of these recruiters are targeting folks who have a few years of experience, so they can get high quality candidates that are proven to their clients. And sometimes some folks, I've talked to them, they prefer reaching out to the hiring manager, or like I mentioned earlier, a VP of a specific particular domain in a company. They would come up to them and be like, and they'll give them a warm message and say, "Hey, I'm really passionate about this role. I am curious about how you got to your position. I want to be you in 5 to 10 years." And start to have this building a relationship through that, by networking their way into a job versus directly applying to a recruiter. This is more of a long game approach where you're networking with key decision makers, key individuals, and hopefully they'll remember you, and hopefully that in down the line, a year or two, it will help you expand your network. And if you need to get a job, you'll get that job, like, from that referral and whatnot. What do you think of that
Yeah, totally. I
approach?
mean, look, especially if you're a new graduate, right? If you're someone who's newly graduated, take advantage of that. I mean, make use of that while you can, because people are going to be way more sympathetic to the fact that you're a new graduate. Because hey,
Hmm.
everyone's been a new grad at some point in their lives, and people are more sympathetic to you. They're
Hmm.
probably going to be more open to having a conversation with you and mentor you and all that stuff.
Hmm.
So again, take advantage of that as much as you can while you still can, right? So definitely
Hmm.
agree with that. And again, when you're approaching directors or VPs or C-level executives, these are actual decision makers. So
Hmm.
you want to go straight to the source as much as possible, especially at the early
Hmm.
stages. Now, just a quick caveat though, if you are actively in an interview cycle, right, and you're being represented by a recruiter,
Mhm,
or your primary point of contact has been established at the recruiter, in that scenario, it might be a bad idea to
mhm,
bypass them and go directly and speak to the hiring manager or the hiring team, because you already have an established
mhm.
relationship in place, and the process is already underway. But if like Andrew's saying,
Okay.
you're at the application stage, you don't know anyone, you're just trying to connect with people, absolutely go directly to the
Mhm,
source, folks. You want to connect directly
mhm,
with the decision maker and with the people making the actual decisions.
mhm. Okay, so, uh, I guess there's a two-prong approach. If you're already in a recruiter, if you're already talking to a recruiter, keep with that, but at the same time, actively look for hiring managers, key decision makers in the company, and also try to go for
Yeah,
that route. So, you've already mentioned with recruiters, especially at staffing agencies, these recruiters have highly specialized, I guess, fields that they're hiring for, and you mentioned that we have to uh, create a message that targets your specific jobs you're looking for, highlights the specific skills that you have, then highlights the specific experience slash projects you're working on, so they have a better idea of like who you are and what you can
yeah.
do. So what are once you've established a connection with the recruiter and you've had this conversation going, and like say like I'm talking to you and you are a tech recruiter, I want to be in tech. What are some good questions to ask to a recruiter from a staffing agency?
Yeah. So and that's a great point, right? So when you have your messaging thing, folks, you got to
Mhm,
aim to get on a phone call or on a Zoom call with the recruiter, right? That should be the end goal. And yeah, when you're on this phone call, you gotta first of all inquire about what their client is looking for.
mhm,
Because again, going back to what I said before, right? Remember, recruiters are very much keyword driven. They're going to be listening for keywords
Mhm.
for certain skills that they're currently recruiting on. So before you start talking about all your experience, which I'm sure is impressive and all that stuff,
Mhm.
you want to focus on those things that are going to capture the recruiter's attention. So before they're probably going to say, hey Andrew, so can you run me through your resume, or can you tell me about yourself and stuff like that. Before you go ahead and do that, you got to say, hey Dean, absolutely, I'd be happy to do that. Now, before we get to that, what exactly is your client looking for at this time, and what are they looking for in an ideal candidate? So I make sure I'm telling you about the most relevant stuff in regards to my experience, right? So then that's when the recruiter is going to let you know, okay, all right, fair enough, Andrew. So I really like how well, it's not really like, but so my client's currently looking for someone with XYZ, whatever. So then
Mhm.
Andrew knows, okay, he makes a mental note, okay, for the remainder of the conversation, I got to focus on those relevant things that they just
Mhm.
mentioned, because that's what their client is looking for.
Mhm.
So make sure you're asking this folks up front as soon as possible, so you
Mhm.
know exactly what you want to talk about, because you want to talk about the relevant stuff. That's the most important stuff.
Mhm. And I hope I'm not pushing here, but how does one identify, like for me as a job applicant, red flags in recruiting versus some green flags? Because I have personally had some bad experiences with some recruiters and some of the processes, but I've had some fantastic experiences from this just very professional manner and professional attitude that really helped me go through the process, and I really enjoyed working with them. What are some red flags and green flags you would say to look for in recruiting?
Yeah, so this is such a great question, because I see it all the time, right? People are really frustrated with some of the things that recruitment agencies, unfortunately,
Hmm.
specifically, are doing. So I would say, there's so many red flags, but look, if I could narrow it down to like it's like something very abstract and high level, folks, if you
Hmm.
find the agencies really, kind of holding their cards close to their chest,
Hmm.
and you feel like they're giving like the minimal amount of information to you so you can make a well-informed decision, and they're asking so much from you in exchange for that, despite the fact that they're not sharing much information, they're not helping you out, they're not providing you with details and all that
Hmm.
stuff. That to me is I would consider that a red flag, right?
Hmm.
Because why would they be so, I mean, how could the agency expect you as a candidate to make a well-informed decision if they're holding all their cards close to their
Hmm.
chest and they're not being transparent, but yet they want transparency from you? Because
Hmm.
there has to be a two-way exchange, right?
Yeah.
So to me, that would, I mean, that in itself, at least at a very high level, I mean, that's a major red flag, right?
Hmm.
It comes down to that, almost like a secretive kind of an
Yeah.
approach to a lot
You
of the
want to
agencies.
feel that open flow of connection. You want to
Yeah,
feel like they're
exactly.
warm and authentic, and you want to have that easy flow versus them just constantly asking you questions.
Yeah, exactly.
So, enough about recruiting. I had a guest on earlier, and she told me she went to a career coach to help her work on her resume, work on her attitude of approaching job applications. And I don't know very many people who have used a career coach. I haven't reached a stage in my life where I've decided to use a career coach to help me. Could you give me some of the high level or key reasons why someone would want to use a career coach, and how a career coach can help them through their job application or through their career journey?
Yeah, totally. So I guess one of the major misconceptions a lot of people have in regards to their job search is that what a lot of people don't realize is the skill set required to conduct an effective job search is totally different from your actual skill set in your profession. So
Mhm.
what I'm saying is the conducting a job search, that's a totally different skill set,
Mhm.
because it's very much, I mean, unless you're working in sales and stuff like that, it's very much like a sales cycle,
Mhm.
right? The way you approach it, the way you got to stand out, the way you handle your conversations, and all that stuff. So what a career coach would do, or a job search coach would do, is help you figure out, okay, what are you doing currently in your, like, what's your current strategy, and then helping you enhance those skills required for handling your job search cycle, right? So again, it comes down to the job search process being an entirely different skill set. Now, that doesn't mean everyone out there needs
Mhm.
a career coach or a job search coach, right? Some people might
Mhm.
be better able, might have a stronger understanding of this, but then there's a
Mhm.
lot of people out there, and what I have observed in tech is, a lot of people out there that don't see that distinction between running their job search versus, running their career. Which, by the way, their careers, they run excellently, really
Mhm.
well, awesome job with that. but the skill set required to find a job is completely different. So that's one of the major areas where a career coach actually comes in. And the career coach acts as pretty much, just like the same way a sports coach would, right? Identifying the, where the weaknesses are, helping you enhance and
Mm-hmm.
improve on those. Identifying where things can be strengthened in your job search, where are all the blocks and barriers occurring.
Mm-hmm.
Is it the resume? Is it how you're handling your pre-screens? Is it how you're positioning yourself?
Mm-hmm.
So all these various areas that determine whether or not you're able to move ahead in an interview cycle, and implementing and executing on that in the most efficient manner.
Well, thank you so much, Dean.
My pleasure.
Towards we covered a lot of topics here, and it was like really like rapid fire question answer here.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Towards the end of my show, I always give a minute for my guests to talk about whatever cause they want to promote, or a brand that they're promoting, or something they're working on. So you have a minute, and the floor is yours.
Awesome, awesome. Appreciate that, Andrew. Yeah. So one thing I'm working on at the moment, folks, in regards to my business as a job search coach, is I'm working on a digital product that's actually gonna be a virtual training platform that guides job seekers through conducting their job search from an online application standpoint. A lot of people they struggle with applying online, standing out, and all those other various steps involved in applying online. So I'm currently creating a digital product.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a virtual training platform where I'm going to be teaching you how to run through your job search and applying online efficiently from all the way from your resume through to the submission stage,
Mm-hmm.
and some other avenues you can use to position yourself for those positions, and increase your chances of getting the attention of hiring teams, recruiters, and organizations. So I guess stay in touch with me. Feel free to follow me, and my product will be coming out soon, and I hope to help all of you folks out there with that product, which I'm really excited about.
And to my listeners, all the information will be in the description. Thank you so much, Dean.
Thanks so much, Andrew. Had a great time.
This is the end of the show. Thank you for tuning into the Pandemic Job Hunt podcast. As always, I would love to get feedback, so don't hesitate to get in touch through my Twitter at Andrew H. N. Barry or LinkedIn.